Hi.
Hi. Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too. How are you
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, I'm okay.
That's good. I'd turn up the volume a little bit so I can hear you better. So
Okay.
today you chose the topic TV for ELPS practice, right?
Actually, that's I don't know why, but the topic usually pop up, but that's not my choice
Okay,
actually.
what would you like to work on?
Yeah, today I want to talk about qualities of a good kid.
Okay, that's fine. Are we
Yeah.
are we talking about this as pertains to doing the ELPS test or just discussion?
Actually, it's for part 3 in IELTS exam.
Okay. All right. Great. So, all right. Does it the information you have, does it tell us what the part two question was?
No, I just have the question that what are the important qualities of a good son or daughter? Have these qualities changed or remained the same time over time in in your culture?
Okay. I love questions like that because how are we supposed to know what happened over time before we were there? Good question, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's one reason I asked what was the question for part two. Sometimes they let us see both. So, okay. So, what would you understand how part three works? Do you?
Yeah, a little so can you show me how it works?
Sure. That's why I asked the question. So,
Yeah.
part three is not specifically timed. The examiner knows how much time he has to spend on it. That can be a short amount of time, can be a long amount of time, depending on how everything's been going for the whole day for all the people that have to be tested.
Yeah.
He, it's it's not. It's usually your score that you had. Uh, you realize they grade it later on the following week, and they have two people graded up to the point where they have your projected score at the point where you talked for 2 minutes in part two, and then they stop for a minute and they look at part three. And normally, as long as you didn't just have a disaster, part three never really lowers your score from part two, but it can make it go higher. And so,
Yeah.
what part three is, they ask your opinion about something as you just read, and the examiner may challenge what you say. Okay, so let's say what would you say was one of the, well, they asked us, are things the same what are expected of children now or young adults, or is it the same as before, or has it changed? So tell me what, even though you may or may not have a formed opinion, uh, and you may not if you were with him, but you need to say something. So what would you say would be your answer to the examiner to that question?
Yeah. So in because I am a Vietnamese person, so in my culture, it's quite traditional that a child, a son or a daughter should be allowed obey what their parents told us to do, and yeah, um, like
Okay,
because
that's a good stopping point. That's a good point you made. Don't worry about the don't worry about a mistake. Don't hunt for vocabulary. Just use what comes to your mind. Okay, because you're doing fine. Anytime and else, it's better to keep talking. Uh, if you have to list what's most important, vocabulary, uh, grammar, or fluency, if you put them in order, it's fluency, fluency, fluency. So just better to keep
yeah,
talking than to stop and hunt for vocabulary. Except you did.
but I but actually I'm running out of ideas. I don't know what to say.
Well, it was good that you were kept talking, but you actually had given a good answer, so it was okay to stop. All right. In fact, that was the answer I expected because having lived in Asia, I understand that's exactly what is expected of children, is that to do what
Yeah.
their parents or even the grandparents tell them to do. Okay, so now the examiner may come back and say to you, he's going to ask you, is that what your do your friends feel the same way as that? Is that what everybody does, or is this just in your family? Okay, so now if he said that to you, you come back to him. This is a conversation in part three. It's not
Mhm.
a question and answer. It's a conversation, as if we were students preparing to discuss or take a test for midterm or something. So if he asked you, do you really believe that, or is that just what? Do you think all the people your age feel that that's the way they're supposed to act? How would you
Yeah,
respond to that?
most of people, the person at the same age with me, uh, are like facing this problem that they always have to like obey their parents' words, and if yeah, and just a little of them that their parents really like democratic. I know this word.
Democracy?
Uh, yeah, yeah, democracy that they listen to their children and like they let them do what they want. There are just a little of them have this chance.
Okay, so in other words, what you're saying is, in general, all the parents expect it to stay the same, but a few people, a few students, people of that age are allowed to have a little more freedom, or maybe the family a little more democratic, so they could have more say in what they do. Is that what you meant?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
that's fine. And do you think that overall that the entire society is becoming a little bit more understanding? The young people want to, yeah, like the birds in the nest, they want to flap their wings and get ready to fly. So that's what young people are doing when they start to notice the world around them. Do you agree with that?
You mean uh that yeah, like the parents in our country is more like understandable, like understand their children more.
That, yeah. How do you feel? Do you think that's true? That overall, of course, some parents may be more strict, some may be too free with what they let their children do. But overall, do you think, on average,
Yeah,
that children are, and maybe it's not even right to use the word children, that young adults are allowed more freedom to learn about the world before they actually leave the house and go out on their own?
yeah. I think that's true because, like, education is becoming better, and like because the parents get more knowledge about like how to teach a children, how to teach a child, how to treat them, and they know that they should let them like decide their own way. So because of that, parents in my country are getting more and more like uh, getting easier to let the young adults make their own decisions.
Okay, that was good. And you made a, like, if you're driving a car and you change gear, then the car goes smoother. That's how I felt about you when you started this part of the answer. All of a sudden, you were into the discussion, and that's what the examiner's looking for. If you know that
Yeah.
you're able to carry on a discussion like that. Now, in some cases, the examiner may come back to you uh, and not agree with you. But that's not necessarily meaning personally that he doesn't agree with you. And that doesn't hurt your score. He wants to see how you react to somebody saying, well, I don't think that's right. And so be aware that it can be that he, and I will give you an example. One online, there is a famous example of a part 3 test, and the examiner is asking this young man from Switzerland, yeah, as you finish school and you're ready to go out into the world, what is it that you feel you need to express to the world who you are? And this young man said, yeah, he needs a very expensive car. He wanted a Ferrari. That's $250,000. And he said he needs to have designer clothes. And he expects his parents to give him $20,000 to buy the special clothing. And he has to have a Rolex that costs $85,000. And of course, the examiner says, really? That's what you really think you need to go out in life? And at first he says, yeah, you have to. And the examiner asked him, how have you always felt this way, or has it always been such a competition that you feel you are involved in? He said, yeah, since I'm a little kid. My parents bought the fancy shoes and even designer name on my jumpers. I don't even know what a jumper is, but jumpers. And so they're back and forth, and the examiner's trying to see, will he accept that maybe he's not thinking clearly? And then he says, you know what? Maybe the car is not so important, because cars pollute. And that's important in my country of Switzerland, because we're very proud of our beautiful countryside and the pristine nature of the environment. So I don't really need the car, but the watch and the clothing is important. Okay, so that was probably considered a successful part 3, because he was willing to listen to somebody else's point of view. Now, just the fact that he listened and discussed it was good enough. It didn't hurt him if he had said, nope, I need to have the car. As long as the examiner can see that he is considering the point of another person, that's what they want to see. And that's called creative or critical reasoning, that you're willing to be open to other ideas. That's really what they're looking for in part 3. Do you have enough? Is there an additional question in there that to follow up what the first one you told me?
The first one is, what are the important qualities of a good son or daughter, and have these qualities changed or remained the same over time in the culture?
Okay, so why don't we talk? What do you think? Why don't you name a one good quality or two, and then I'll name one, and let's see how we do. In your opinion?
In my opinion, I think a good kid is the one that can like understand their parents, like to understand that they are working hard to make ends meet and like grow them up, and understand why they like do this, do that. Maybe sometimes they are unreasonable, but we can understand that and still spend the love for them. Yeah, that's my opinion in what the important qualities of a good kid.
Okay, so I agree that would be for sure one of the important qualities for a child to, or a young adult to understand that that it's a two-way street. The teenager or the young adult needs to understand that there should be some respect for the viewpoint of their parents, because they've been there and done that. Okay, but then again, the parent needs to remember what they felt like when they were growing up, and see remember that they probably weren't happy if they were being restricted on what they could do. And then it's my opinion that both as a parent and a grandparent, that the bottom line is usually that the parent is really wanting what's best for the child as they grow up, and doing the best for them that they can. And that I feel the child should, even though they might not agree, they should understand that's what's going on there, and at least take the extra time to decide. And of course, usually they're going to say, nah, I still want to do it my way. But that's okay,
Yeah.
because when they do it their way and then they stumble and fall, the next time the parent suggests something, they might listen a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's okay. Is there
So,
another follow up on your sample question there?
no, actually, we have just 1 hour for three students, so I just have 15 minutes today. So,
Okay.
maybe this is and thank you for spending time
Yeah,
talking
no,
with me
no
today.
problem. Anytime. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll make a reservation next time, and yeah,
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. You
make
have a good weekend.
yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.